Hey everybody, it's Stefan and it's Saturday. So this week's topic is coming out as genderqueer and being out as genderqueer. I would say that coming out and being out as genderqueer has been different in different stages of my life. When I was still mostly identifying with being female and people saw me as female and used female pronouns, I didn't really need to come out as genderqueer because even though they knew I was female, I was still obviously gender variant. So it wasn't really a surprise when I came out as gay or as trans because people already recognized that I was genderqueer even though they didn't, use that term and I didn't use that term. The first time I really started owning the term genderqueer was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, 1 or 2 years before I came out as trans. In some ways, I felt that being genderqueer was an interim thing on my way to being trans, like how some people use the term bisexual, but then they're really gay. But in my case, it really didn't turn out that way because after I already decided, okay, yeah, I feel trans, I still felt genderqueer, just on the other side of the spectrum. Just how I didn't feel that I was the epitome of female, I don't feel that I totally fit as male either, even though I'm more on the male side. I'm definitely like an effeminate guy and, people pretty much think I'm gay. And I've found that it's important for me to be more vocal about my genderqueerness now that I'm being perceived mostly as male, both from within the queer community and outside of the queer community. Within the queer community, I feel that when you say you're trans, you're automatically lumped into this dude bro category, and if I'm going to be a man, I'm going to be a man, and that's totally not the case. And it's not the case for a lot of trans people. A lot of trans people do still identify as genderqueer and don't necessarily need to live up to that masculine stereotype. I feel that it's important to come out as genderqueer to my trans friends so that they understand that I experience my maleness and my masculinity different than they do. And either way is fine and totally works for everybody else, but I find that it's an important part of my identity to be genderqueer. I'm pretty much out as genderqueer and as trans to pretty much everybody in my life. Everybody who is close to me especially. When I'm in class or something like that, I'm not really that close to a lot of my classmates, so it's not really an issue and I don't bring it up. And like people passing by or whatever, like sometimes I'll correct people, but most times I don't. And but like my entire family knows that I'm trans and understands the genderqueer bit to an extent. And all of my close friends totally understand, and we dialogue about it a lot. At work, my primary job, my boss and one of my other coworkers knows that I'm trans, and we've talked about genderqueer stuff. But I don't know if the other people that I work with know that I'm trans or anything. But I pretty much openly talk with the other 2 people who know about stuff, and so, I mean, it's not like I'm going to say, oh guys, I have something to tell you, but at the same time, if anybody asks me anything, I'll be like totally like, yeah, whatever, and talk to them about it. So, I don't know, that's just kind of my philosophy in most instances, is, if people have questions and stuff like that and want to talk, then I'm totally open to that, but if you're not somebody who's an integral part of my life, I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining myself. On the other hand, my entire life, hopefully, if I get into a PhD program, we'll be talking about gender, so I'm very education-oriented, and so when I'm in a gender class, which is a little bit different than just being in my regular classes, when I'm in a gender class and it's actually pertinent to the discussion, I'm totally out. My very first day of gender and pop culture, I got up and we were talking about like why we were there and whatever, and I'm like, hey, I'm a genderqueer trans guy, and I'm interested in gender studies, and this is a fun class, and blah, 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 and it's definitely a part of why I was there, and I just wanted to get everything out in the open so that people knew, and if people had questions, they can come up to me and ask me about them, and I don't have a problem with people knowing at all. I've never had any problems with anybody. Yeah, so I've been identified as genderqueer both on the female side and the male side of the spectrum, and I find that it's more important for me to speak up now that I'm on the male side of the spectrum to, I don't know, in some ways to maintain my place within women's space, and in feminist communities. I've noticed that when I first came out as trans, I was very interested in how can men be feminists and how can men support women in women's causes. And the more I think about it, I don't really feel like a man supporting women's causes. I feel like someone with a female history, and that history to me needs to be acknowledged. So by saying that I'm genderqueer, it's saying that even though I don't agree with the way that my body is and the way that I was assigned, I still feel connected to that community. Even though I know that I'm not a part of it directly. It kind of sounds like I just want the best of everything, which kind of I do. I think that gendered spaces are kind of problematic in a lot of circumstances, but I'm just me, and I'm genderqueer, and I do what I want.